Imagine waking up every morning inspired, going to work, or chasing your dream, feeling fulfilled, and coming home satisfied at the end of the day. That's not a fantasy. It's what happens when we live with purpose. Too often, we focus on what we do. We spend time refining how we do it. But the real power, the spark that ignites passion, loyalty, and resilience, comes when we begin with why. Why do we get out of bed in the morning? Why does our work matter? Why do we keep going, even when things get hard? Today, I want to talk about that why. Because when we discover our purpose, we don't just survive, we thrive. And the world doesn't just need more people who can do the job. It needs more people who know why they do it. Let's start with why clarity of purpose is the foundation of lasting motivation. It's not just about having goals or ambitions, it's about understanding the deeper reason behind them. When we have a clear sense of why we do what we do, our energy becomes focused, our actions become meaningful, and our challenges become stepping stones instead of roadblocks. Most people know what they do. They can describe their job title, their daily tasks, and the outcomes they hope to achieve. Some people even know how they do it, what skills, methods, or habits they use to succeed. But far fewer people can clearly articulate why they do what they do. What they do. And that missing piece makes all the difference. Without a why, motivation becomes fragile. It fades when we're tired, when we fail, or when things don't go according to plan. But with a clear why, motivation becomes sustainable because it's rooted in something deeper than circumstance. Purpose gives us direction. It acts like a compass, pointing us forward when we lose our way. In moments of confusion or doubt, purpose brings us back to center. It reminds us that what we do matters, not just to us, but to others. And that's the kind of motivation that lasts. When our actions align with our beliefs, we gain a sense of integrity, of authenticity. That alignment gives us strength. It gives us focus. It gives us fire. Clarity of purpose doesn't always come easily. Sometimes we have to dig deep. We have to reflect, to ask hard questions. What do I truly care about? What impact do I want to have? What legacy do I want to leave? It's not about chasing titles or trophies. It's about chasing meaning. And once we find that meaning, everything changes. The mundane becomes meaningful. The routine becomes rich. Even the hard days become worth it because we know what we're working toward. Think about the most passionate people you know, the ones who light up when they talk about what they do. Chances are, they're not just driven by external rewards. They're driven by something internal. Something internal. Something they believe in. Something they would do even if they weren't paid, praised, or promoted for it. That's the power of purpose. It pulls us rather than pushes us. It calls us forward instead of weighing us down. Clarity of purpose also helps us say no. In a world full of distractions, opportunities, and expectations, it's easy to get lost. It's easy to chase someone else's dream or follow someone else's path. But when we know our why, we're able to filter out the noise. We can focus on what truly matters. Yes, we can make decisions with confidence because we're not just reacting to life. We're responding with intention. That's what separates busy people from effective people. The busy ones do more. The purposeful ones do what matters most. Motivation that stems from purpose is also more resilient. When we face setbacks, and we all do, our why becomes the anchor that holds us steady. It's the reason we get back up. It's the voice that says, this is hard, but it's worth it. Without purpose, failure feels final. With purpose, failure becomes feedback. It becomes part of the journey, not the end of it. We see this in leaders, in entrepreneurs, in artists, in parents, anyone who lives with purpose. They aren't superhuman. They struggle. They fall. But they keep going not because they have to, but because they believe in something bigger than themselves. That belief gives them stamina. It gives them vision. It gives them courage to do the uncomfortable, the unpopular, the uncertain, because they know their why. Clarity of purpose also breeds confidence. When you know why you're here, you stop comparing yourself to others. You stop needing constant validation. You stop chasing approval and start living your truth. That kind of confidence can't be faked. It comes from within. It's quiet, steady, and deeply powerful. And it draws people in not just because of what you do, but because of why you do it. Even in teams and organizations, purpose is the glue. It's what binds people together. When everyone understands the why, collaboration becomes more meaningful. Communication becomes clearer. Trust deepens. Because people aren't just working for a paycheck, they're working for a shared belief, a shared mission. That's when great things happen, not because people are told what to do, but because they believe in why they're doing it. Clarity of purpose isn't something you find once and forget. It's something you return to, again and again. It evolves, it deepens. And the more you connect with it, the more powerful your motivation becomes. Purpose is not just a passive idea or a lofty ideal. It's a powerful force that drives action. When we understand our purpose, we don't just dream, we move. We don't wait for the perfect moment, we create it. Purpose doesn't sit quietly in the background. It demands to be expressed. It pushes us to act, to build, to contribute, and to make a difference. That's what makes it more powerful than mere ambition. Ambition might be about what we want for ourselves, but purpose is about what we're here to give to the world. So often, people get stuck in the trap of chasing outcomes, money, recognition, status, thinking those things will lead to fulfillment. And while there's nothing wrong with achieving goals, if those goals aren't connected to something deeper, the satisfaction is short-lived. We climb ladders only to realize they're leaning against the wrong wall. Purpose changes that. When we're grounded in purpose, the actions we take are not just productive. They're meaningful. They move us towards something that matters, something that endures beyond any single accomplishment. Purpose creates momentum. It gives us a reason to begin and the fuel to keep going. Think about the difference between working on a task because you have to, and working on something because it aligns with your deepest values. The effort may be the same, but the experience is completely different. When we act from purpose, even hard work becomes fulfilling. We feel more alive, more present, more connected. We're not just going through the motions, we're living with intention. People often talk about motivation like it's something we need to chase or generate. But purpose simplifies the equation. When we're clear on our why, motivation becomes a natural result. It becomes something that rises up from within us, not something we have to constantly search for. We don't need to be pushed or reminded or incentivized. We are already compelled to act because we believe in what we're doing. That belief is more powerful than any external reward or pressure. It taps into something that's core to who we are. Acting from purpose also helps us make better choices. In a world full of options, it's easy to get overwhelmed or distracted. But when our actions are rooted in purpose, we begin to filter our decisions through a different lens. We ask, does this align with what I truly value? Does this move me closer to my mission? That kind of clarity sharpens our focus. It eliminates noise. It helps us prioritize what really matters, not just what looks impressive or urgent. That's how we move forward with confidence. Not because we have all the answers, but because we know we're acting in alignment with something real. Purpose-driven action also creates impact. It has a ripple effect. When people see someone acting from purpose, it inspires them. It challenges them. It reminds them of their own potential. Because purpose is contagious. It has the power to awaken something in others, something they may have forgotten or buried. And that's how movements begin. That's how cultures shift. Not with speeches or slogans alone, but with people who are willing to live out their purpose in everyday actions. In everyday actions. People who show up, speak up, and step up. Not because they have to, but because they feel called to. When we act from purpose, we take responsibility in a different way. We stop waiting for someone else to lead. We stop blaming circumstances. We recognize that we have a role to play. And that sense of ownership is empowering. It moves us from being passive participants in our lives to active creators of change. Whether it's in our careers, our communities, or our families, we start to see every action as an opportunity to make a difference. It's also important to understand that purpose doesn't require perfection. It doesn't mean we'll always get it right. But it does mean we'll always have a reason to keep going. When our actions are anchored in purpose, failure doesn't define us. It teaches us. It refines us. Because we're not just acting for applause or approval. We're acting from a belief that's bigger than our fear. That's the kind of strength that sustains us through the ups and downs, the wins and losses. Purpose gives meaning to the mundane. It transforms routine into ritual. It turns tasks into contributions. When we see our actions through the lens of purpose, everything changes. The way we speak, the way we work, the way we show up in the world, it all becomes more intentional, more powerful. We begin to lead by example, not by authority. We begin to influence not just with words, but with our actions. Because when purpose fuels action, people notice, and more importantly, people feel it. When we know our why, we develop a strength that goes beyond talent, experience, or even intelligence. We build resilience. Life is unpredictable. No matter how well we plan or how hard we try, there will be moments of failure, doubt, and hardship. But it is in those moments that knowing our purpose becomes our greatest asset. It acts like an anchor in the storm, a light in the dark. When everything around us is shaking, our why reminds us of what we're standing for. Resilience doesn't come from pretending everything is fine. It comes from having a reason to keep moving, even when everything isn't. People who endure the hardest trials are often the ones who have the clearest sense of why they're enduring them. They're not just suffering, they're sacrificing for something they believe in. That belief becomes a source of strength. It turns pain into perseverance. It gives meaning to the struggle. When we operate without a clear sense of purpose, we're vulnerable to burnout. Every obstacle feels heavier. Every setback feels more personal. We start asking, what's the point? But when we know our why, the point is always in front of us. It's what keeps us grounded. It's what helps us bounce back, not because things get easier, but because we've decided they're worth the fight. Purpose transforms endurance from a passive state of survival into an active choice to continue. Think about the people who inspire us most. They're rarely the ones who've had it easy. They're the ones who faced adversity and kept going. Not because they were stronger than everyone else, but because they were clear about what they stood for. Their setbacks didn't define them because their purpose was bigger than their pain. That's the power of knowing your why. It gives you something no failure can take away. A reason to rise again. Purpose helps us reframe challenges. Instead of seeing obstacles as barriers, we begin to see them as part of the journey. Not interruptions, but invitations. Invitations to grow, to adapt, to deepen our commitment. When we know why we're doing something, we stop expecting the path to be easy. We expect it to be meaningful. And that expectation changes how we show up. It shifts our focus from immediate comfort to long-term impact. In the face of criticism, purpose helps us stay true to ourselves. It gives us the confidence to withstand judgment, rejection, or misunderstanding. When people doubt us or dismiss us, we don't crumble. Because our validation doesn't come from their applause. It comes from our clarity. We know why we're here. We know what we believe in. That internal conviction creates an inner resilience that no external opinion can break. Resilience rooted in purpose is also more sustainable. We can only push ourselves so far with willpower alone. Sooner or later, sheer discipline runs dry, but purpose replenishes us. It reminds us that our effort has meaning, that we're not just pushing through for the sake of endurance, but for the sake of a vision that matters. And when we feel depleted, returning to our why can reignite us. It reconnects us with the reason we started and the people we're trying to serve. Purpose also allows us to find strength in our weakest moments. When things fall apart, it's tempting to retreat, to give up, to believe the lie that we're not enough. But purpose tells us a different story. It tells us that even brokenness can serve a purpose, that failure can be a teacher. That pain can lead to transformation. People who know their why aren't afraid of struggle. They embrace it. Not because they enjoy it, but because they know what it's shaping them for. It's easy to be enthusiastic when things are going well. It's easy to stay motivated when we're seeing progress. But the true test of purpose is how we respond when things get hard. When the path is unclear, when the rewards are delayed, when the support fades. In those moments, our why becomes more than just a source of motivation. It becomes a lifeline. It keeps us connected to something deeper than results. It gives us the patience to wait, the courage to continue, and the wisdom to endure. Even when our plans fail, purpose allows us to adapt. It gives us the flexibility to pivot without losing direction. The what and the how may change, but the why stays constant. And that consistency becomes a source of strength. It means we can evolve, we can adjust, we can grow without losing who we are. Because at our core, we're not defined by our circumstances. We're defined by our cause, by our reason for showing up. By the thing we believe in enough to suffer for, to fight for, to keep walking for.